When every face you meet on the street might be an actor or an automaton, how do you discover who among us are the main characters in their own story and who are simply passing through as echoes in the background? What if some people aren't really there the way you are? Not villains, not robots, just unawakened. Operating on autopilot, saying what everyone else is saying, doing what everyone else is doing. That's the essence of what people online call the NPC theory, short for non-player character. But beyond the memes and jokes, this idea touches on something far older, the question of consciousness, authenticity, and whether everyone walking around is actually awake. The term NPC started as gamer slang, meaning any character in a video game controlled by the computer, not a real player. These characters follow scripts, say preset lines, and respond predictably. In 2018, internet culture picked up on this term to describe real-life people who seem to be operating without independent thought, repeating what the crowd says, never questioning assumptions, and conforming to the rhythm of society without their own input. Of course, this was controversial. On one hand, it can sound demeaning, like you're calling others lifeless. But on the other, it raises an uncomfortable question. How much of what any of us say or believe is actually our own? According to Psychology Today's discussion on the non-player character theory, this idea reveals a deep misunderstanding of thinking itself, because human minds, even when conforming, are still shaped by context, emotion, and social belonging. But that doesn't make the metaphor useless. In fact, it's a powerful mirror. Let's talk about conformity. Social psychologists have long observed that humans rely on social proof, a mental shortcut, where we assume that if many people believe something, it must be correct. This phenomenon makes life easier. We don't have to question every decision from scratch, but it also makes us vulnerable to outsourcing our beliefs. According to research discussed on Reddit's Ask Psychology thread on NPC theory, what defines an NPC mindset isn't a lack of intelligence, it's a lack of reflective thinking. It's the tendency to adopt others' phrasing or logic word for word without adding one's own reasoning. Psychologists call this mimetic behavior copying others because it provides safety and belonging. Now, think about how social media amplifies this. People repeat trending opinions, viral takes, quotes, and ideologies almost like copied dialogue. The risk? The more minds sync up into the same rhythm, the fewer seem to move independently. This doesn't mean these people are truly thoughtless, just that they're mentally asleep, living in what the philosopher Martin Heidegger called the they self. In that mode, we don't act authentically, we act like society acts. So, who's a main character? Contrary to social media's simplified phrase, being a main character doesn't mean you're self-centered. It means you live with intention. You ask questions. You think instead of echo. You notice your actions, your beliefs, your reactions, and choose them consciously. Sociologists might call that agency the ability to shape your own life path rather than being shaped by trends or scripts. The Mind Mastery article, Are You an NPC?, frames this beautifully, suggesting that many people feel empty or disconnected because they've lost the spiritual or internal world that used to guide their sense of purpose. Without inner reflection, people start living externally, chasing validation, mimicking culture, and slowly becoming predictable characters in a story someone else wrote. So being a main character isn't about ego, it's about awareness, about living inwardly connected, not externally programmed. But NPC theory isn't new at all. Ancient philosophers already explored it. Plato suggested that most people live in the cave, seeing only shadows on the wall and thinking that's the whole world. Buddhism speaks of awakening from illusion. Nietzsche mocked a herd mentality, describing how societies produce conformity rather than individuality. Even Carl Jung wrote that many people never meet their true self. They live through a persona, the mask they wear for society. So when we call someone an NPC today, we're touching on timeless concerns. Am I awake? Am I thinking for myself? Or am I just reacting, conditioned by comfort and routine? Let's strip away the meme. Forget the labels. The real challenge is this. How can I live more consciously? How can I make sure I'm not just an echo in someone else's script? Try observing your daily routines. How many of your opinions are truly yours? How many habits come from media you consume, the people you hang out with, or the things you're told to want? Notice your language. Do you repeat cliches or quote genuine thought? Becoming conscious means catching yourself when you're running autopilot and choosing again. Authenticity begins in moments of quiet, when you decide how to respond instead of just reacting. Main characters develop self-awareness not to stand out, but to wake up. And here's where things get cosmic. What if, in a simulated universe where the digital or metaphorical awakening consciousness is the whole purpose, Maybe the test isn't about discovering whether others are NPCs, but realizing when we are. Because in that moment of awareness when the script stops and you choose a line no one wrote, you become the player of your story. That doesn't mean we dehumanize those who seem unaware. Quite the opposite. Everyone, even the NPCs, are capable of awakening. Compassion toward them might be the next stage of awareness, understanding that judgment is another kind of unconscious behavior. So I'll ask you again, when every face you see might be an actor or an automaton, how do you discover who among us are main characters and who are echoes in the background? Maybe the answer isn't out there at all. Maybe it begins every time you pause, reflect, and rewrite your own line.